from lower concentration to higher concentration, there would be a transport. So diffusion, facilitated diffusion, they are all passive transport. So active transport is against the concentration gradient, and it would be uh, with the expenditure of ATP. So the cell membranes, they are going to exhibit two types of transport, passive transport and active transport. So passive transport is with without expenditure of energy, and it is going to be with the concentration gradient. Active transport is with expenditure of energy and against the concentration gradient. So what do we mean by against the concentration gradient? See, in diffusion, it is a process where it is a movement of solvent or solute from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration. This is movement uh, through the concentration gradient. Against the concentration gradient is, so movement of solute or solvent or gaseous particles from a lower concentration to higher concentration, that we call it as against the concentration gradient. So active transport, which is against the concentration gradient most of the time, it will be with expenditure of energy. So ATP is utilized there. Okay. So the types of transport, passive transport. So the movement of molecules across the membrane along the concentration gradient, that is from higher concentration to the lower concentration without the expenditure of energy, we call it as passive transport. So it is a movement of molecules across the membrane along the concentration gradient, that is from higher concentration to the lower concentration without the expenditure of energy, we call it as uh, the passive transport. So passive transport is of two types. Simple diffusion is passive transport, movement of neutral solutes across the membrane. So that is movement of solutes from higher concentration to lower concentration. So till they attain equilibrium, we call it a simple diffusion. Osmosis is movement of water by diffusion across the membrane. See, osmosis is a process of movement of solvent from a region of higher water potential to a region of lower water potential. So this we call it as osmosis through a semi-permeable membrane. Okay. So polar molecules cannot pass through the non-polar lipid bilayer. So polar molecules, they cannot pass through the non-polar lipid bilayer molecules, which are hydrophobic. So they require membrane carrier proteins. So this sort of membrane carrier proteins are required for their transport. So we call this as facilitated diffusion. See, in facilitated diffusion, the polar molecules cannot pass through the non-polar lipid bilayer. So they require membrane carrier proteins. On the membrane, some carrier proteins are there which are required for their transport across the membrane. Without this carrier protein, they cannot undergo transportation. Okay, so this sort of diffusion assisted by a carrier protein, we call it as facilitated diffusion. So here you can notice the facilitated diffusion wherein the polar molecules are going to be transferred across the membrane with the help of carrier protein. Okay, so they cannot just enter into the membrane because the non-polar lipid bilayer prevents their entry. So in order to overcome this, they have certain proteins called as carrier proteins, which carries the uh, particles and which facilitates for their entry through the semi-permeable membrane. Since it is facilitated by a protein, carrier protein, we call this type of diffusion as facilitated diffusion. Then movement of molecules across the membrane against the concentration gradient, that is from lower to the higher concentration with the expenditure of energy. ATP is utilized. So we call that as active transport. So active transport is movement of molecules. You can notice here the second slide. So the movement of molecules across the membrane against the concentration gradient. That is, these particles are moving from lower concentration to higher concentration and this requires expenditure of energy. With the expenditure of energy, ATP is being utilized. Example, sodium ion or potassium ion pump. So these are all active transport mechanisms. See, in active transport, the movement of molecules across the membrane against the concentration gradient, that is, they are moving from lower concentration to higher concentration with the expenditure of energy. That is, ATP is utilized. We call this process as active transport. Example, sodium ion pump, potassium ion pump, they are all active transport pumps that are there where there is an expenditure of energy. Now, the next cell organelle that we are going to discuss about is the cell wall. Okay, cell wall is found in only in plant cell. It is a non-living rigid structure found outer to the plasma membrane of fungi and plants. See, fungi has the cell wall made up of chitin, whereas the plant cell has cell wall made up of cellulose. Okay, so it is a non-living cell wall is a non-living rigid structure found outer to the plasma membrane of fungi and plants. The cell wall of algae, it is made up of cellulose, galactans, mannans, and minerals like calcium carbonate. So the cell wall of algae, it is made up of cellulose, galactans, mannans, and minerals like calcium carbonate. See the cell wall of algae, you know that the chlorophyceae, rhodophyceae, phaeophyceae. So they're all made up of cellulose, galactans, mannans, and minerals like calcium carbonate. In other plants, it consists of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins, and proteins. See, in case of collonchyma, you find pectins, isn't it? So in most of the other plants, the cell wall is composed of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins, and proteins. So the cell wall of a young plant cell is capable of growth. So the cell wall of a young plant cell, it is capable of growth. It gradually diminishes, the cell wall capability to grow diminishes as the cell matures and the secondary wall is formed on the inner side. So the primary wall is capable of growth, but it gradually diminishes. The primary wall capability to grow, cell wall capability to grow diminishes, and the secondary wall is formed on the inside, inner side towards the membrane. So the middle lamella layer is a layer made up of calcium pectate. So the middle lamella layer you can see here. So they have this middle lamella layer, which is made up of calcium pectate. So this is the primary cell membrane. Plasma membrane is here. So you can notice that the primary cell wall has above it is the middle lamella. So the middle lamella is made up of calcium pectate, which glues the different neighboring cells together. So the middle lamella is going to uh, glue or stick the different neighboring cells together. So what is the middle lamella made up of? It is made up of calcium pectate. Okay. The cell wall and the middle lamella may be traversed by plasmodesmata. So they have this gap junctions, isn't it? So the cell wall and middle lamella are traversed or it is traveled in between by plasmodesmata, which is cytoplasmic connections, which connect the cytoplasm of neighboring cells. So it is going to cross the cell wall and the middle lamella. So middle lamella is made up of calcium pectate. So the plasmodesmatal connection, they provide the cytoplasmic connection between the neighboring cells. And that is formed by the traversing of the cell wall and middle lamella is traversed by the plasmodesmata. And that helps in the cytoplasmic connection between the neighboring cells. That is about the cell wall. The functions of cell wall, it gives shape to the cell. The cell wall gives shape to the cell. It protects the cell from mechanical damage as well as infection. It helps in cell to cell interaction by having this plasmodesmatal connection. It acts as a barrier to undesirable macromolecules. So the cell wall is also acting as a barrier for undesirable macromolecules. So the functions of cell wall are It gives a definite shape to the cell. It protects the cell from mechanical damage and infection. It helps in cell to cell interaction by the plasmodesmatal connection. It acts as a barrier for undesirable large molecules to enter inside. It acts as a barrier for undesirable macromolecules. Okay. So then we have to discuss about the endomembrane system of cells. So endomembrane, it is a group of membranous organelles having coordinated functions. All of them are having a coordinated functions. So this we call it as the endomembrane system. So the endomembrane system consists of endoplasmic reticulum, which is of two types, smooth endoplasmic reticulum and rough endoplasmic reticulum. Then they have Golgi complex or Golgi apparatus, so lysosomes. Then you also have this vacuoles. So it is interaction, a group of membranous organelles having a coordinated functions. They all have a coordinated functions. Thus we call it as endomembrane system. Endo means within. So endomembrane system is a group of membranous organelles having a coordinated function. The different components of this endomembrane system are endoplasmic reticulum, then Golgi complex, lysosomes, and vacuoles. First, we'll discuss about the endoplasmic reticulum. So this diagram might be required. So you might have to roughly draw this diagram. So endoplasmic reticulum, these are a network of tiny tubular structures, okay, so which are scattered in the cytoplasm. So endoplasmic reticulum or ER, what we call it as, divides the space within the cell, that we call it as intracellular space, into two compartments, the luminal compartment and extraluminal compartment. So luminal compartment is inside the endoplasmic reticulum, whatever space you have, okay, the intracellular space inside the endoplasmic reticulum, we call it as luminal intracellular space. Outside the uh, endoplasmic reticulum, that we call it as extraluminal or cytoplasm space. So the ER or endoplasmic reticulum divides the intracellular space into two compartments, that is luminal within the space, intracellular space within this endoplasmic reticulum, we call it as luminal. Outside, that is in the cytoplasm, we call it as extraluminal space. So endoplasmic reticulum is of two types, that is a rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So what are endoplasmic reticulum? They are a network of tiny tubular structures. So they are a network of tiny tubular structures scattered in the cytoplasm. So the endoplasmic reticulum divides the intracellular space into two compartments, that is luminal is the intracellular space within the endoplasmic or inside the endoplasmic reticulum, the space we call it as luminal space. Extraluminal space is the intracellular space outside the ribosomes, outside the endoplasmic reticulum, that is in the cytoplasm. This space we call it as the extraluminal compartment or space. So endoplasmic reticulum is of two types, smooth endoplasmic reticulum and rough endoplasmic reticulum. So now if you look into rough endoplasmic reticulum, so they bear ribosomes on their surface. So you can see them to be granular in nature. So the rough endoplasmic reticulum, see surrounding the nucleus, you have this rough endoplasmic reticulum. So they bear ribosomes on their surface. Rough endoplasmic reticulum is frequently observed in cells which are actively involved in protein synthesis and secretion. So they are extensive and continuous with the outer membrane of nucleus. So outer membrane of nucleus, they are found extensively surrounding them and continuous with them. First of all, the rough endoplasmic reticulum, they are found having a large number of ribosomes on their surface. You know that ribosomes are the protein factories of the cell. they help in protein synthesis. So rough endoplasmic reticulum are found in those cells which are actively involved in protein synthesis and secretion. So they are extensive and continuous with the outer membrane of nucleus, that is the nuclear envelope. So they are found extensive and continuous with the outer membrane of nucleus. So the smooth endoplasmic reticulum ribosomes. So here you notice these are the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So SCR we also call it as. So ribosomes are absent on the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and they are just tubular structures. Okay, it is a major site for synthesis of lipids. So the lipids are synthesized in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum, they are involved in protein synthesis and secretion. So they are found in regions where, found in the cells where there is active protein synthesis and secretion. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum, it is the major site for lipid synthesis. So in animal cells, the lipids like steroidal hormones are synthesized in smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So you should know the difference in their function. Rough endoplasmic reticulum, on their surface, you find a large number of ribosomes. So you know that ribosomes are the protein factories of the cell. So the rough endoplasmic reticulum are found majorly in those cells which are actively involved in protein synthesis and secretion. Okay, they are found in continuity with the uh, outer membrane of nucleus. So whereas the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, they do not have ribosomes. They are involved in the synthesis of lipids, especially in animal cells. Lipid-like steroidal hormones are synthesized in smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So the next endomembrane system after the discussion of the endoplasmic reticulum is Golgi apparatus. So Golgi apparatus or Golgi complex, what we call it as, is densely stained reticular structures near nucleus. So they are found near the nucleus. They are densely stained reticular structures found near the nucleus. It was first observed by Camillo Golgi and named after him as Golgi complex. So it was first observed by Camillo Golgi. They consist of flat, disc-shaped sacs, cisternae we call it as. So they consist of flat, disc-shaped sac, or it is a bag-like structure. So flat, disc-shaped sacs, we call it as cisternae, and they are about zero point 0.5 to 10, 1.0 micron meter diameter. So their diameter is zero point 0.5 to 1 micron. So these are stacked parallel to each other. They are closely packed, stacked parallel to each other. The cisternae are flat, disc-shaped uh, sacs, which we call it as cisternae. So these are stacked parallel to each other. Cisternae are concentratedly arranged with convex cis forming. If they are convex, we call it as cis phase, and if they are having concave, we call it as trans phase. Cis and trans phase, so if they are having this sort of the convex type, so we call it as cis phase. If they are having this concave type, we call it as trans phase. See, convex sort of phase, we call it as cis phase. You can see at the other end, they have a concave like phase, so which we call it as trans phase. So the maturing phase is trans phase. So cis and trans phase are totally different but interconnected. So cis phase is having a convex phase, and concave phase you find in case of trans phase. So cis and trans phase are totally different, but they are interconnected. So this is what you have to remember regarding the Golgi apparatus. So the functions of Golgi apparatus, okay, so they help in secreting material to the intracellular targets or outside the cells. So materials to be packaged. So they are also called as packaging system Golgi apparatus. So the materials which are to be packaged as vesicles from the ER fuse with the cis phase and move towards the trans phase. This is why apparatus remains in close association with the ER. So materials to be packaged as vesicles. So whatever materials have to be packaged as vesicles, they from the ER, that is the endoplasmic reticulum, they fuse with the cis phase. They fuse with this materials which has to be packaged from the ER. They fuse with the cis phase and move towards this trans phase. So this is the reason that Golgi apparatus remains closely associated with endoplasmic reticulum. They are the packaging unit of the cell, Golgi apparatus. See the vesicles with materials, they have to be packed. So that takes place. So vesicles, the materials to be packed from the ER. Okay, so the packaged as vesicles at the cis phase and they move towards the trans phase. So this is one of the reasons for the Golgi complex to be closely associated with endoplasmic reticulum. Apart from this function, so the proteins which are synthesized by the ribosomes on the endoplasmic reticulum, so they are modified in the cisternae of the, so you know the cisternae is the sac-like phase. Okay, protein synthesized by the ribosomes on the endoplasmic reticulum, they are modified in the cisternae of the Golgi apparatus. So before they are released into the from its trans phase. So the Golgi complex are involved in formation of glycoproteins and glycolipids. Okay, so they are the packaging system of the cell. So the cell secreted materials to the intracellular targets or outside the cell. So that is secreted by the Golgi complex. So the materials to be packaged as vesicles, which is obtained from the ER, they fuse with the cis phase and then move towards the trans phase. So you have the cis phase, which is convex, and trans phase, which is concave. Okay, and this is the maturing phase, the concave, and move towards the transferase. That is why the Golgi complex is always closely associated with the endoplasmic reticulum. Second things, the proteins synthesized by ribosomes on the endoplasmic reticulum, that is rough endoplasmic reticulum, they are modified in the cisternae of the Golgi apparatus, so within the cisternae, before they are released from its trans phase. So they release formation of glycoproteins and glycolipids happens in the Golgi apparatus. Okay, so the formation of glycoproteins and glycolipids takes place in the apparatus. That is the Golgi apparatus or Golgi complex, we also call it as. So their Golgi complex, you have to remember one thing, they had flat, disc-shaped saccular structures called as cisternae. So they were convex shaped in the cis phase, concave phase in the trans phase. Okay, so they are the two phases that they have in case of Golgi complex. That is the structure of it. And always Golgi complex is found closely associated with endoplasmic reticulum because the materials secreted to be forming the vesicles from the endoplasmic reticulum, they are given at the cis phase and they pass out through the trans phase. Okay, so they are all things that you have to remember regarding the Golgi complex. It was for the first time studied by Camillo Golgi. Okay, Camillo Golgi, first observed by him and named after him as Golgi complex or Golgi apparatus. The endomembrane system. So we discussed the endoplasmic reticulum, we discussed the Golgi apparatus. Now the next endomembrane system that we are going to discuss is lysosomes. Lysosomes are also called as suicide bags of the cell. They bring about the destruction of the cell. That is why we call it as lysosomes as suicide bags of the cells. They have hydrolytic enzymes, which brings about the disintegration of the cells. Lysis means death of the cell. So lysosomes are commonly called as suicide bags of the cells. Lysosomes, they are membrane bound. So you can notice here they have enlarged that lysosomes. They are membrane bound vesicular structures. They are formed by the process of packaging in the Golgi apparatus. See, lysosomes are formed by the process of packaging in the Golgi apparatus. So what does the lysosome vesicles contain? Almost all type of hydrolytic enzymes. Okay, hydrolases like lipases, proteases, carbohydrates. So they have hydrolytic enzymes, almost all types of hydrolytic enzymes like hydrolases like lipases, nucleases, proteases, carbohydrates. They are active at acidic pH, that is pH below 7. So they are active in acidic pH. They digest carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. So that is what you have to remember about lysosomes. Lysosomes, they brings about the destruction of cell. Whenever the lysis of cell has to happen, it is brought about by lysosomes. Lysosomes are commonly called as the suicide bags of the cell. See these points, they have not given it here, but you should be aware about it. So, what are lysosomes? They are membrane bound vesicular structures which is formed by the packaging in the Golgi apparatus. So, lysosomes are vesicular structures, membrane bound vesicular structures formed by the process of packaging in the Golgi apparatus. So the lysosomal vesicles, they will be having the hydrolytic enzymes. The different hydrolases or enzymes are lipases, proteases, carbohydrates, nucleases. So they are active. So the hydrolytic enzymes and lysosomes are active in the acidic pH. So they digest carbohydrates, nucleases, proteins, lipids. So they digest carbohydrates, protein, lipids, and nucleic acids. So that is the capability of the lysosomes. Next endomembrane system is vacuole. So vacuole is very large in plant cell, and they have the outermost membrane of vacuole. We call it as tonoplast. So you should be aware about it. So the vacuoles are membrane-bound space which is found in the cytoplasm. So vacuoles are the membrane-bound space found in the cytoplasm. Generally, the vacuoles contain water, sap, excretory product, and other materials which are not useful for the cell. They are found in the vacuoles. So the vacuoles generally consists of water, sap, excretory products, and other materials which are not required for the cell. So vacuole is bound by a single membrane called as tonoplast. In plant cells, the vacuoles can occupy 90% of the total volume of the cell. That is why they are very large in plant cells. In plant cells, the vacuoles can occupy up to 90% of the volume of the cell. So vacuoles are membrane bound space found in the cytoplasm. So membrane bound space found in the cytoplasm. They have an outermost single membrane covering called as tonoplast. The vacuole consists of water, sap, excretory products, and other materials which are not useful for the cells. In the plant cell, the central vacuole occupies up to 90% of the total volume of the cell. That is what you have to remember regarding the vacuoles. So vacuoles in plants, tonoplast facilitates the transport of ions and other materials against concentration gradients into the vacuole. So against concentration gradient into the vacuole, the tonoplast facilitates the movement of particles against the concentration gradient. What is against the concentration gradient? That is the movement of particles from lower concentration to higher concentration. That is facilitated by the tonoplast in the vacuole. Okay. Hence, the concentration is always higher in vacuole than in the cytoplasm. In amoeba, the contractile vacuole helps in excretion. So you might have noticed this contractile vacuole, how they open up and help in the excretion of waste materials. So in amoeba, the contractile vacuole helps for excretion. In many cells, example protists, food vacuoles are formed by engulfing the food particles. So you notice the food vacuoles, they are all formed by engulfing the food particles. So vacuoles in plants, the tonoplast facilitates the transport of ions and other materials against the concentration gradient into the vacuole. So tonoplast, the membrane, outer membrane, they facilitate the transport of ions and other materials against the concentration gradient into the vacuole. So that is the reason the vacuole concentration is always higher than that of cytoplasm. In amoeba, the contractile vacuole helps in excretion process, helps for excretion, wherein the contractile vacuole opens and removes, throws out the waste material outside. In many cells, like in protozoans like protists, the food vacuoles are formed by engulfing the food particles with a droplet of water. So the food vacuoles are formed by engulfing the food particles. Now the next cell organelle that completes the endomembrane system. We have studied in the endomembrane system the endoplasmic reticulum, which is of two types: smooth endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum is associated with ribosomes, and they are found in those cells where there is protein synthesis and secretion. Then smooth endoplasmic reticulum is involved in lipid synthesis, so they do not have any what do you call it as protein synthesis. They do not have any ribosomes, smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Then Golgi complex, they are mostly involved in packaging of the vesicles and other things which are secreted by the endoplasmic reticulum. So they are always closely found associated with the endoplasmic reticulum. You can find two phases in the Golgi complex: the cis phase, which is convex in shape, and the trans phase, which is concave in shape. They have a flat disc-like saccular structures, which we call it as cisternae. So the that is one aspect of it. Then we discussed about lysosomes, which are the suicide bags of the cells. So they will be having, they are membrane-bound vesicles. Within this lysosome vesicle part of it, they have hydrolytic enzymes. So hydrolases like lipases, proteases, carbohydrases, nucleases. So they bring about the digestion of carbohydrate, protein, fats, and nucleic acid. Okay, so that is the role of lysosomes. Then we discussed about the vacuole. So the space occupied by the within the cytoplasm, large space that is occupied, space occupied by the um, membrane bound organelle, we call it as vacuole. So the vacuole has a single membrane covering it, that is the tonoplast. Okay, and vacuoles are going to have water, sap, excretory materials, and other components. Okay, so the vacuoles, uh, they would also be having more concentration than the cytoplasm, because the tonoplast membrane facilitates against the concentration gradient entry of ions and compounds within the vacuoles. That is the reason they are more concentrated than the cytoplasm. So tonoplast facilitates movement of ions against the concentration gradient. Okay, so the the vacuoles, food vacuoles are also formed in protists. In case of amoeba, the vacuoles, the contractile vacuoles, they are excretory in function. They throw out the excretory material. Okay, so these are all the important features of vacuoles. So we have studied the four types of endomembrane system. That is the endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus. The third one is lysosomes, and fourth one is vacuoles. So all this endomembrane system we have studied. Now the most important, next important aspect of it, which we'll again study in the chapter of plant physiology chapter, mitochondria, ultrastructure of mitochondria. Again, we are going to study. So a few of the, here the diagrams are very important. So this diagram you should also be drawing in the exam if they ask for mitochondria, and explain it with the diagram. See, the mitochondria, they are called as, commonly called as powerhouse of the cell, because they are going to generate the ATP. So the breakdown of food molecules, oxidation of food molecules takes place in the mitochondria. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. ATP is the energy currency of the cell. So these common names for them, you should remember about them. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So in almost all the animals and plants, so the mitochondria is going to bring about the oxidation of food materials and release of energy in the form of ATPs. All the organisms, they recognize energy only in the form of ATP. So you should understand about that. They play a very important role in respiration. So the mitochondria are clearly visible when they are stained. So the number of mitochondria, their shape and size might vary from cell to cell depending on their physiological activity. So the mitochondria is a sausage. You might have seen the sausage. So they are sausage shaped or cylindrical. They are having a diameter of zero point 0.2 to 1 micron meter and length of 1 to 4.1 micron meter. So zero point 0.2 to 1 micron is their diameter and length is from 1 to 4.1 micron meter. So that is their length. They are sausage shaped or cylindrical. They have a diameter of zero point 0.2 to 1 micron meter and length of nearly 1 to 4.1 micron meter. So mitochondria is a double membrane bound structure. So they have an outer membrane and an inner membrane. So in between you have this perimitochondrial space. Okay. So what you can notice is a mitochondrion is a double membrane bound structure with outer membrane and inner membrane. It divides the space into two aqueous compartment, that is outer compartment and inner compartment matrix. So the infoldings that you have, so outer compartment matrix and inner compartment matrix. So this is the inner compartment matrix. This outside part of it is the outer compartment matrix. Okay, so inner membrane forms a number of infolding. See this outer membrane, they don't have any finger-like infoldings. Inner membrane, you can notice that they are forming a number of infoldings, okay, or finger-like foldings, which we call it as cristae towards the matrix. So they increase the surface area. Why should they have this finger-like folding? To increase the surface area. See, the mitochondria is a sausage-shaped structure or cylindrical in shape. They have two membranes, the outer membrane and inner membrane. The inner membrane has numerous finger-like infoldings, which increases the surface area available. So this sort of membrane, it divides the matrix into outer compartment matrix and inner compartment matrix. So they divide it into outer compartment and inner compartment. Only the inner compartment has the matrix. Outer compartment is a space, intermembranal space we call it as. Only the inner compartment has the matrix. So inner membrane, they fold to form numerous infoldings, which are finger-like infoldings towards the matrix. So they increase the surface area. So the compartments, the infolds of this inner membrane of mitochondria, they divide the lumen or space into two compartments, that is outer compartment, which is made up of intermembrane space, and inner compartment, which has matrix. Okay, so the inner membranes form a numerous folds, infoldings, which we call it as cristae towards the matrix. So what is the purpose of cristae? Is they increase the surface area. So the two membranes, that is the outer membrane and inner membrane, they have their own enzymes associated with them. Okay, they have their own specific enzymes associated with them. So matrix possesses a circular DNA, a few RNA molecules, ribosomes are there. Even though mitochondria is found in eukaryotic organism, the ribosomes within mitochondria, it is of 70S type, not 80S. See, in the cytoplasm of the cell having this mitochondria, the cytoplasm will have ribosomes of 80S type. Mitochondria itself is found only in eukaryotic organisms. So, but the ribosomes which are found within the uh, mitochondria, they are of 70s type, and they are components for protein synthesis. Okay, so the mitochondria divides by fission. So the functions of mitochondria are, they are the site of aerobic respiration. They produce energy in the form of ATP. So they are also called as powerhouse of the cell. See, they are the site of aerobic respiration. They produce ATP, energy in the form of ATP. So they are also called as powerhouse of the cell. See, especially in the respiratory cycle, you are going to come across the Krebs cycle, and there are different cycles in the respiration process. First one is hydrolysis of food substrate. So the food substrate, whether it is carbohydrate, lipids, or fatty acids, it should be broken down into the simple form. So the second step is glycolysis or EMP pathway, which takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. Okay, the glycolysis or EMP takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. The third step of respiration is Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, which takes place in the matrix of mitochondria because they have enzymes for this Krebs cycle only in the matrix of the mitochondria. Why does glycolysis takes place in cytoplasm? Because all the enzymes required for glycolysis is present in the cytoplasm of the cell. Okay, then the inner membrane, they have particles on them which we call it as a Racker's particle. So they have this F1 portion, the head region, stalk region, F0 portion. So the electron transport system, they take place in the Racker's particle. The electron transport chain or terminal oxidation, will be calling it as, they take part in this Racker's particle. So they have this stalk, it is the F0 portion, and the head region, we call it as the F1 portion. So these are the Racker particles found on the inner membrane. So mitochondria overall, they are the site of aerobic respiration. Okay, all the organisms which breathe through oxygen. So the mitochondria are the sites of aerobic respiration. They produce energy in the form of ATP. That is the reason the mitochondria is called as powerhouse of the cell. So remember about the mitochondria. So what I told you about the glycolysis, Krebs cycle, electron transport chain or electron transport system, we'll be discussing that in the physiology part, plant physiology, respiration topic. I just gave you an introduction so that later you can correlate with this. So the Krebs cycle takes place in the matrix of mitochondria because all the enzymes required for the Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle is present in the matrix of mitochondria. The terminal oxidation takes place in this Racker's particle or F1 portion of it. They'll be undergoing the terminal oxidation. So overall, the mitochondria is involved in aerobic respiration. They produce energy in the form of ATP. So that is the reason mitochondria is also called as powerhouse of the cell. Very important from exam point of view, and as well as for your understanding of respiration topic, you should be aware about the structure of mitochondria. Next, the plastids. So these are found in all the plant cells and euglenoids. So plastids are found in all the plant cells and euglenoids, euglena. Okay, so euglenoids, when I'm talking about that. So they are large sized. Plastids are large sized. Don't get confused between plastid and plasmid. Plasmid is extranuclear self-replicating circular DNA. What we are discussing about is plastids. Okay, these are found in all the plant cells and in euglenoids. They are large sized. They are observable under the microscope. They contain some pigments like chloroplast is a plastid. Okay, chromoplast is a plastid. So they contain pigments, some pigments in them, the plastids. Based on the types of pigments, plastids are of three types: chloroplast, chromoplast, leucoplast. So they are the three types of pigments. Based on the types of pigments, three types of plastids are found: chloroplast, chromoplast, and leucoplast. So chloroplasts, they contain chlorophyll and carotenoid pigments. So they trap light energy for photosynthesis. The chromoplasts, on the other hand, they contain fat soluble carotenoid pigments like carotene, xanthophyll, they would be containing. This gives a yellow, orange, or red color for them, chromoplasts. Leucoplasts, these are colorless plastids of various shape and size, and they have stored nutrients. They include amyloplasts. Amyloplasts store starch. Elioplasts, they store oil and fat. Aleuroplasts, they store proteins, or it is also called as proteinoplast. So the plastids, chloroplasts, they contain the chlorophyll and carotenoid pigments. They trap energy, light energy required for photosynthesis. The chromoplasts, on the other hand, they are made up of fat-soluble carotenoids and pigments like carotene, xanthophylls, etc. This gives the yellow, orange, or red color to the chromoplasts. Leucoplasts, these are colorless plastids of various shape and size, and they store nutrients. Based on the type of nutrients they store, the leucoplasts are also called as amyloplasts if they store starch. Example, potato, you find this amyloplasts. Eleoplasts if they store oil and fats, and the aleuroplasts if they store proteins. So they are also called as proteinoplasts. Aleuroplasts are also called as proteinoplasts. So we'll discuss about the chloroplasts and structure of ultrastructure of chloroplasts in the next class. In the next class, we'll be discussing about the plastids and the ultrastructure of chloroplasts. Any doubts or clarifications, students?